Li Hyun woke to the urgent beeping of his communication device. He blinked sleep from his eyes and reached for it. The screen showed an official message marked with the golden seal of the Galactic Council. This was unusual. The Council rarely contacted Earth representatives directly, especially not at this hour. Diplomat Li Hyun. The message read, "Your presence is required at an emergency council session. Transport will arrive in 3 hours. This matter concerns the highest security of the Galactic Union." Li sat up straight, fully awake now. In the 15 years since Earth had joined the Galactic Union, he had never seen a summons like this. He dressed quickly in his formal diplomatic uniform, a dark blue suit with the Earth emblem on the chest. The silver and blue insignia showed Earth surrounded by olive branches, a symbol of peace that humans had carried to the stars. As he packed, Li's mind raced. What could be so urgent? The Galactic Union included 27 species and had existed peacefully for over 5,000 years. Emergencies were rare. The transport arrived exactly on time. It was a sleek, silver vessel that hummed rather than roared. Inside, an alien pilot nodded respectfully. The pilot was Ardaxian, tall and slender with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms that moved with careful precision. "Diplomat Li," the pilot said, "we will reach the council station in 6 hours. You may use the rest chamber if you wish." Li couldn't rest. Instead, he reviewed recent reports on his datapad. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Trade disputes between the Mendari and Volok systems, scientific cooperation agreements, cultural exchange programs, nothing that would trigger an emergency council session. The transport ship exited hyperspace with a gentle shudder. Li looked out the viewing port and saw the massive Galactic Council station. It was a wonder of engineering. A spinning wheel nearly 20 kilometers across, orbiting a neutron star that provided unlimited energy. The station housed representatives from all 27 member species and served as the political center of galactic civilization. As they docked, Li was met by his assistant, Kim Ju-woo. Her face was tense. "Sir, the session begins in 30 minutes, she said. "Most representatives have already arrived. There are rumors." "What rumors?" Li asked as they walked quickly through the gleaming corridors. "Something about trouble in the outer systems. The Ardaxians look worried, and I've never seen the Volok's representatives so quiet." Li nodded. The Volok's were known for their constant, chattering communication. If they were silent, something was truly wrong. They reached the council chambers, an enormous circular room with tiered seating. Each section was designed to accommodate the different physical needs of member species. Some delegates floated in tanks of liquid. Others required special atmospheric chambers. Earth's section was simple: standard gravity, standard atmosphere, comfortable seats. Li noticed the stairs as he entered. Even after 15 years, humans were still seen as newcomers. Many older species viewed Earth as primitive, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 70 years ago. Some delegates still spoke of humans as children who had been admitted to the Union too soon. Council leader Krell, a massive being with crystalline features that shimmered under the lights, looked directly at Li. There was something in those alien eyes. Concern, perhaps even fear. Li took his seat and waited. The chamber hummed with quiet conversations in dozens of languages, all translating instantly through his earpiece. He caught fragments: outer rim, communication lost, fleet movements. The council leader raised all 4 of his upper limbs, and silence fell across the chamber. "Representatives of the Galactic Union," Krell began, voice resonating through the hall. "I have called this emergency session because we face a threat unlike any in our 5,000-year history." Li felt a chill run through him. Whatever was coming, he knew that Earth's place in the galaxy was about to change forever. Council leader Krell's voice filled the chamber. The crystalline being's words seemed to drop like heavy stones into a still pond. "We have received a message from a power calling itself the Void Dominion," Krell said. This message was sent after they destroyed 3 outer systems. Images appeared in the center of the chamber. Li Hyun watched with horror as planets crumbled and stars dimmed. The recording showed massive black ships that seemed to absorb light around them. Where the ships passed, nothing lived. "The Dominion has given us a simple choice," Krell continued. "Surrender or be destroyed." The chamber erupted with voices. Some shouted questions, others cried out in fear. Many began arguing immediately. Li remained quiet, watching each species react. The Ardaxians huddled together, their blue skin paling. The Volok's delegates bubbled frantically in their tanks. The insect-like Tara clicked their mandibles in what Li recognized as deep distress. Krell raised all four arms again, and quiet slowly returned. "We have gathered our best military minds to assess the situation," Krell said. "General Vex of the Union Defense Force will present their findings." A tall, gray-skinned alien with no visible eyes stepped forward. General Vex wore a uniform covered with symbols of rank. When he spoke, his voice was flat and emotionless. "The Void Dominion possesses technology far beyond our own," General Vex said. "Their ships can travel faster, strike harder, and defend better than anything in our fleet. Our models predict total defeat within 60 standard days if we resist." More images appeared. Battle simulations showing Union ships being quickly destroyed by the Dominion fleet. The predictions were clear and grim. "What do they want?" called out a representative from the gas giant species known as the Mira. Krell's crystal features darkened. "They demand our complete surrender. All Union worlds would fall under their rule. They would take what resources they need and install governors on each world." The Ardaxian Prime Speaker stood. His four arms moved in the graceful patterns that marked formal speech. "Perhaps we can negotiate," he suggested. "Offer some systems as tribute while protecting our core worlds. Many lives would be saved." Others quickly agreed. The Volok's representative bubbled excitedly about peaceful solutions. The Tara suggested immediate diplomatic missions. Even the typically warlike Drex suggested caution rather than conflict. Li listened to each suggestion carefully. He noticed that most species seemed resigned to some form of surrender. Their civilizations had known peace for so long they could not imagine another way. "What evidence do we have of their true intentions?" Li asked, speaking for the first time. All eyes turned to the human. Many seemed surprised that he would question the obvious course of action. "The Dominion sent us their terms," said Krell. "What more do you need?" "I need to know if they can be trusted to honor any agreement," Li replied. "Has anyone studied their previous conquests? Do they keep their word? What happens to worlds that surrender?" An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. Finally, Krell spoke. "We have limited information. The outer systems they destroyed were small colonies. Few survivors escaped." Li nodded slowly. "Then perhaps we should gather more information before deciding our course of action." "There is no time," shouted the Volok's representative, water splashing from his tank. "The Dominion demands an answer within 7 standard days." Li's face remained calm, but his mind was racing. He pressed a small button on his wristband, sending a coded message to Earth. He would need data, real data, not just the panicked reactions of species unused to existential threats. "The Council will now vote on our initial response," announced Krell. "Those who favor opening surrender negotiations, raise your indicators." Lights began to glow around the chamber as most representatives voted to begin surrender talks. Li's indicator remained dark. As the session ended, Kim Ju approached her superior. "Earth Command has responded to your alert," she whispered. "They're sending something called Project Lighthouse data. It will arrive within the hour." Li nodded. "Good," and asked Park Do-yun to join us. "We'll need his military expertise." The human delegation left the chamber quietly while the other species continued their frightened discussions. Unlike them, humans knew what it meant to fight for survival. Li Hyun sat in the Earth delegation's private chamber, studying the data that had just arrived from home. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the station's systems. Kim Ju-woo stood nearby, organizing more information as it came in. Park Do-yeon, Earth's military attaché, had arrived and was reviewing tactical displays on a large screen. "This changes everything," Lee said quietly. The door chimed, and 3 council members entered. The Ardaxian Prime Speaker, a Volok's representative floating in a small personal tank, and a Tara whose chitinous body gleamed under the lights. "Diplomat Lee," the Ardaxian said, "we hope to understand why Earth did not vote with the majority. The Dominion's power is clear. Fighting would mean destruction." Lee gestured to the seats designed for each species. "Please, join us. I've received information from Earth that you should see." As they settled, Kim activated the main display. Images appeared. Worlds burned to cinders, populations in chains, entire ecosystems destroyed. "What is this?" bubbled the Volox, his tank water rippling with distress. "This is what happened to worlds that surrendered to the Void Dominion," Lee explained. "Our deep space probes have been monitoring the regions beyond Union space for years. We've observed the Dominion's actions closely." Park Do-yeon stepped forward. He was shorter than Lee, but had the straight posture of a soldier. "The Dominion doesn't negotiate in good faith. They take what they want, enslave populations they find useful, and destroy everything else." The Terra's mandibles clicked rapidly. How did humans gather this information? The Council's own scouts reported nothing so detailed. "Humans are cautious by nature," Lee said. "Our history taught us to watch for threats. While the Union enjoyed peace, Earth prepared for the possibility of danger." "You suspected the Dominion specifically?" asked the Ardaxian. "No," Lee admitted. "But we knew something might come from the darkness between stars. Humans have always looked to the sky with both hope and fear." Park touched the display controls, and new images appeared, detailed scans of Dominion ships. "We've analyzed their technology," he said. "Their ships have weaknesses. Their weapons have limitations. They're powerful, yes, but not unbeatable." The 3 council members looked at each other in surprise. The Voloks bubbled excitedly. "You believe we can fight them?" "The Defense Force assessments said otherwise." Lee stood and faced them directly. "The Defense Force hasn't fought a real war in over 2,000 years. Their assessment is based on outdated thinking, and humans know better." The Ardaxian's tone held both doubt and hope. "Unfortunately, yes," Lee said. "Earth's history is filled with conflict. We'd fought countless wars among ourselves. It's not something we're proud of, but it gives us a perspective the Union lacks." Kim brought forward another datapad. "We've been secretly developing technologies specifically designed to counter threats like the Dominion. Project Lighthouse includes shield systems, weapons, and tactics that could work against them." The Terra's antennae twitched with interest. "Why would Earth develop such things when the Union has been at peace?" Lee's expression grew serious. "Because humans understand that peace must sometimes be protected by the readiness for war." The 3 council members were silent, absorbing this new information. Finally, the Ardaxian spoke. "If what you say is true, the council must hear this before making any final decision." "We'll present everything tomorrow," Lee agreed. "But you should know, Earth will not surrender to the Dominion, regardless of the council's decision." "What will you do?" asked the Volox, water splashing slightly as he moved in agitation. Lee looked at each of them in turn. "What humans have always done when faced with extinction. We'll fight." As the council members left, Kim approached Lee. "The full council won't be easily convinced. Most have never known war." "Then we'll have to help them understand," Lee said. "Tomorrow, we show them why humanity's history of conflict might be exactly what saves the galaxy." Park Do-yeon nodded. "It's time the Union learned what humans already know, that there are things worth fighting for, and freedom is one of them." The council chamber was packed the next day. News of the human delegation's private meeting had spread quickly. Representatives from all 27 species watched as Lee Hyun walked to the center of the speaking floor. Kim Ju-woo and Park Do-yeon stood behind him, ready with their evidence. Council leader Krell's crystal form glittered as he spoke. The human delegation has requested this special session to present new information about the Void Dominion. Diplomat Lee, you may proceed. Lee looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, sensory organs, or visual receptors of each species. The room fell completely silent. Honored representatives of the Galactic Union, Lee began, his voice clear and strong. Yesterday we learned of the Void Dominion's ultimatum. Most of you voted to begin surrender talks. Today, I will explain why that would be a fatal mistake. Kim activated the display system. The images from Earth's deep space probes filled the chamber. Planets stripped of resources, species in chains, worlds burned to ash. This is what happened to civilizations that surrendered to the Dominion, Lee said. They were not spared. They were consumed. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. The Volok's tanks bubbled frantically. The Terra clicked their mandibles in alarm. How do we know these images are real? Asked a skeptical Drex representative. Park stepped forward. Earth has been monitoring the Dominion for 3 years. We have thousands of hours of recordings. We detected their ships long before they reached Union space. Why did you not share this information sooner? Demanded the Mura representative, his gas form swirling with agitation. Lee's expression remained calm. Would you have believed us? Earth is seen as young and primitive by many in this chamber. Our warnings would have been dismissed. No one argued with this. It was a truth they all recognized. Now I must tell you something about humans, Lee continued, something that may help you understand our perspective. Lee walked slowly around the central platform, making sure all could see him clearly. Humans have fought wars since before we could write. We have killed each other over land, resources, ideas, and beliefs. Our history is stained with blood. We have created weapons that could destroy our own world many times over. Some representatives drew back, disturbed by this admission. Others leaned forward, curious. This is not something we are proud of, Lee said, but it has taught us something valuable. It has taught us when to fight and when to make peace. Lee stopped and stood tall. His voice grew stronger. There are times when negotiation works, when compromise is possible, when peace can be achieved through understanding. But there are also times when an enemy will accept nothing but complete surrender, when they see mercy as weakness, when they will take everything you have and then destroy you anyway. Lee pointed to the images still floating above them. The Void Dominion is such an enemy. They do not seek cooperation. They seek consumption. They will not honor agreements. They will not spare those who surrender. The chamber was absolutely still now. Even the usually restless species were frozen, listening. Humanity knows this enemy, though we have never met them before. We recognize their kind from our own history. And so I come before you today with a message that may shock you. Lee took a deep breath and spoke the words that would change the course of galactic history. It's time for war. The chamber erupted. Some representatives shouted in protest. Others sat in stunned silence. The Ardaxian Prime Speaker and his allies watched with growing interest. Lee raised his hands for quiet. Not a war of conquest. Not a war of hatred. A war of necessity. A war of survival. Because sometimes, to preserve peace in the long term, we must be willing to fight in the short term. Lee looked directly at Council Leader Krell. Earth will fight the Void Dominion, with or without the Union's support. But together, we can win. Apart, we will all fall, one by one. The council chamber descended into chaos as Lee's declaration hung in the air. War. A concept so foreign to most species that they could barely comprehend it, was now the humans' answer to the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. Council Leader Krell called for order. It took several minutes for the shouting to stop. Some representatives were still bubbling, clicking, or flashing with agitation. Others sat in shocked silence. Diplomat Lee, Krell said finally, you have made a serious statement. If you propose war, you must have a plan. The Dominion's power far exceeds our own. Lee nodded. We do have a plan. We call it Operation Lighthouse." He gestured to Park Dodian, who stepped forward and activated a new set of displays. Detailed images of ship designs, weapon systems, and battle formations appeared above the council floor. "For the past 3 years," Park explained, "Earth has been developing technologies specifically designed to counter threats like the Dominion. We focused on their weaknesses." "What weaknesses?" demanded the skeptical Drex representative. "General Vex says they have none." Park touched his controls, and the images zoomed in on a Dominion ship. Their vessels absorb energy to power their weapons. This creates a pattern we can target. Their shields have gaps during firing cycles. Their communication systems can be disrupted. The military representatives from several species leaned forward with interest. This was new information to them. "How can we trust this assessment?" asked General Vex, his gray skin darkening with doubt. "Humans have no experience with interstellar warfare." Lee stepped forward again. "We don't claim to be experts in space combat, but we do understand warfare itself. The principles remain the same, whether on land or among stars." Kim Ji-woo activated another display showing a complex battle simulation. "We propose a 3-phase operation. First, we target their communications to isolate their fleet elements. Then we attack their supply lines. Finally, we engage their main forces using specialized weapons." "What specialized weapons?" asked the Ardaxian Prime Speaker. Park showed designs for new ship systems. "We've developed energy reflection technology that turns their own power against them, and targeting systems that can find the gaps in their defenses." The council chamber was quiet now as representatives studied the human plan. Many looked thoughtful. Some even looked hopeful for the first time. Then the Mura representative's gas form darkened. "This plan requires resources from all Union members. You expect us to commit our worlds to a war based on human theories." "Not theories," Lee corrected. "Tested strategies. We've run thousands of simulations." "Simulations are not reality," countered General Vex. "No," Lee agreed, "but they give us a starting point. And hope." A tall plant-like being from the Fotuxi delegation rose. "Our species has lived in peace for 12,000 years. We will not participate in violence, even to save ourselves. It goes against our deepest beliefs." Several other representatives signaled agreement. The Terra clicked their mandibles in a pattern that indicated religious objection. The Volaks bubbled phrases about their ancient peace codes. Lee looked at these representatives with respect. "We understand. Some species cannot fight due to their beliefs. We do not ask you to change your nature. We ask only that those who can fight, do fight." The Drex war leader stood, her scaled body adorned with traditional markings. "The Drex have fought before, long ago. We remember how. If humans have a real plan, we will listen." The Ardaxian Prime Speaker rose as well. "The Ardaxians value peace, but we value survival more. We will hear more about this Operation Lighthouse." One by one, more representatives indicated interest. Not all, perhaps not even most, but enough to give Lee hope. Council Leader Krull's crystal form pulsed with light. "This is unprecedented. In 5,000 years, the Union has never declared war." "The Union has never faced extinction before," Lee replied simply. Krull seemed to consider this. "I will call for a formal vote tomorrow. Each species must decide its own course. But know this, Diplomat Lee. If the vote fails, Earth stands alone." Lee looked calmly at the council leader. "Humans have stood alone before. We prefer to stand together, but we will do what we must." As the session ended, the chamber buzzed with urgent conversations. For the first time in thousands of years, the word war echoed through the Galactic Council. Lee Hyun sat in a quiet meeting room away from the main council chamber. It was late in the station's cycle, and most representatives had retired to their quarters. But Lee's work was just beginning. The door slid open, and the Ardaxian Prime Speaker entered with 3 others. The Drex war leader, a tall Mura whose gas form shimmered with determination, and surprisingly, A Volux in a hover tank. "We came as you requested," the Ardaxian said, "though some of us took great risk to be here." Lee bowed respectfully. "Thank you for coming. I believe we need to talk before tomorrow's vote." Kim Ji-woo set out refreshments suitable for each species. Park Do-hyun activated privacy shields to prevent anyone from listening to their conversation. "Many on the council fear your plan," the Drex war leader said bluntly. Her scales gleamed in the soft light. "They say humans wish to drag us into their violent ways." Lee nodded. "I understand their fear. War is terrible, but surrender to the Dominion would be worse." "Why did you call us specifically?" bubbled the Volux. "My people generally support peace." "Because each of you represents a key part of what we need," Lee explained. "The Ardaxians have the largest fleet. The Drex have warrior traditions. The Mira control essential resources. And the Volux have no military at all." The Volux finished. "But you have the most advanced medical technology in the Union," Lee said. "In war, saving lives is as important as fighting." The Volux's bubbling slowed as he considered this. Lee activated a small display showing the entire Union. "Together, your 4 species plus humans represent enough strength to begin Operation Lighthouse. Others may join later when they see we can succeed." "If we can succeed." The Mira's gas form swirled doubtfully. Park Do-hyun stepped forward. "We've studied the Dominion carefully. Their advantage is technology, not numbers. If we combine our strengths and use our special knowledge, we have a real chance." "What special knowledge?" asked the Drex war leader. "Each species in this room has unique abilities," Kim explained. "Ardaxians can navigate spaces other species cannot. Drex can withstand radiation that would kill others. Mira can sense energy patterns across vast distances. Volux can heal injuries previously thought fatal." "And humans?" asked the Ardaxian. Lee smiled slightly. "Humans are adaptable. We learn quickly, and we never give up." The 4 aliens looked at each other. Something seemed to pass between them, a moment of understanding. "My people have avoided conflict for generations," said the Ardaxian. "But my ancestors were explorers who faced many dangers. Perhaps it is time we remembered their courage." The Drex war leader nodded. "The Drex have grown soft in peace. Some of us wish to remember what it means to fight for something important." "The Mira will not commit fully," said the gas being. "But some of us will support you. I can promise resources and ships." All eyes turned to the Volux. His tank bubbled as he thought. "Our oldest texts speak of a time when we fought to protect others. Most have forgotten, but some remember. I will bring those who are willing." Lee bowed deeply. "Thank you. Together, we can convince others to join us." "Not all will be persuaded," warned the Ardaxian. "We don't need all," Lee said. "We need enough." Through the long night, they planned their approach for the next day's vote. Lee contacted Earth for additional support. The human fleet was already moving, preparing for whatever came next. As the station cycle turned toward morning, the 5 representatives from 5 very different worlds found common ground in a shared purpose: survival. "Tomorrow will change everything," Lee said as they prepared to leave. "No matter what happens, remember this moment. Different species choosing to stand together against the darkness." The Drex war leader placed her scaled hand on the table. "For the first time in my life, I understand why my ancestors sang battle songs. They were not celebrating death, but protecting life." One by one, the others joined their hands or appendages in the center of the table, a gesture of unity that crossed the boundaries of biology and culture. The alliance was formed. The council chamber was packed. Every representative had arrived early. The tension in the air was thick enough to feel. Lee Hyun stood with his team, watching as species grouped together, talking in low voices. Council leader Krell took the center position. His crystal form glowed brightly, a sign of his serious mood. "Today, the Galactic Union faces its greatest choice in 5,000 years, Krell announced. "We vote on whether to fight the Void Dominion or seek terms of surrender. General Vex stepped forward. I ask all representatives to consider carefully. Our military analysis still shows little chance of victory. Many lives will be lost if we choose war. The Fotuxi delegate rose, plant-like body swaying gently. My species cannot support violence of any kind. We will accept whatever fate comes rather than break our most sacred beliefs. Several other species indicated agreement. The divide in the council was clear. About one-third seemed firmly against fighting. Another third, led by the Ardaxian Prime Speaker and his new allies, supported the human plan. The final third remained undecided. Li knew he needed to convince those who were still uncertain. He had one final chance to speak. Diplomat Li, Krell said, "You may address the council before the vote." Li walked to the center of the chamber. He looked around at the many different life forms watching him. In this moment, the fate of all their species might depend on his words. Honored representatives, Li began, I understand your fear. War is frightening. It brings pain and loss. Humans know this better than most. He paused, letting his words sink in. Our history is filled with conflict. For thousands of years, we fought each other over land, resources, power, and beliefs. We created weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We nearly ended our own civilization more than once. Some representatives shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned forward, listening closely. But our history also taught us something important. It taught us what is worth fighting for. Li's voice grew stronger. We learned that freedom is worth fighting for. The right to choose our own path. The right to live according to our own values. The right to protect those we care about. He pointed to the images of destroyed worlds still displayed above the chamber. The Void Dominion will take all of that away. They will not honor surrender terms. They will not respect your beliefs. They will take what they want and destroy the rest. Li walked slowly around the speaking area, making eye contact with representatives from each undecided species. I cannot tell you what choice to make. Each species must decide based on its own values. But I can tell you what humans have learned through our long, difficult history. He stopped and stood tall. We learned that there are times when fighting is not just necessary, but right. Not because we love violence. We don't. But because we love freedom more. Because we believe in protecting the innocent. Because we know that some things are worth any sacrifice. The chamber was completely silent. Even those who disagreed seemed moved by his words. Earth will fight the Dominion regardless of today's vote. We will stand alone if we must. But we hope to stand with you, not as perfect beings, but as allies who share a belief that our galaxy deserves to be free. Li returned to his place beside Kim and Park. He had said everything he could. Now it was time for the council to decide. Krell raised all four arms. The time has come. Each species will now cast its vote. Those who choose to fight alongside Earth, raise your indicators. Lights began to appear around the chamber. The Ardaxians, the Drex, the Mira, then more species that had been uncertain before. The Terra, surprisingly, joined despite their earlier objections, a faction of the Volok's, even a small group of the usually peaceful Lantari. One by one, more lights appeared until nearly two-thirds of the chamber glowed with the decision to fight. Krill's crystal form pulsed with light. The Council has spoken. The Galactic Union will not surrender to the Void Dominion. We choose to fight. Li let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. They had a chance now. A real chance. The Galactic Union was going to war. The days after the vote were filled with activity. The Galactic Union, peaceful for thousands of years, now prepared for war. Li Hyun had little time to rest. Every hour brought new meetings, plans, and decisions. 1 week after the vote, Li stood in a massive hangar bay watching ships arrive from Earth. General Bak Jian, Earth's top military commander, had come personally to coordinate with the Union forces. He was a tall man with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. The first wave of ships is here, General Buck said as he joined Li. 20 battle cruisers, 50 support vessels, and 5 carrier ships with our new fighters. Lee nodded. How soon can they be ready? 2 weeks. We're installing the special systems now. The general looked around at the alien vessels nearby. How are our allies progressing? Better than expected, Lee replied. The Ardaxians have committed their entire fleet. The Drex are converting mining ships into weapon platforms. The Mura are providing energy cores. Even the Volok's have sent medical teams. And the others? The ones who voted against us? Lee sighed. Most are staying neutral. A few have officially withdrawn from Union activities until the conflict ends. They walked through the hangar, passing teams of humans and aliens working together on ships and weapons. It was a sight no one had imagined possible just weeks ago. Kim Ju approached with a datapad. The first training exercises are complete, she reported. Mixed species crews are performing well together. The Drex and human soldiers have formed a special strike force. And the Dominion? General Blake asked. Still moving toward Union space, Kim said. They expect our surrender message in 3 days. They'll be surprised by what they receive instead, Lee remarked. Park Do-hyun joined them, looking tired but determined. The weapon integration is proceeding on schedule. The energy reflection systems work with Ardaxian ship designs. The Mura have improved our targeting capabilities. Lee nodded with satisfaction. Operation Lighthouse is taking shape. They continued their tour, checking on different projects. Everywhere, species that had rarely interacted before were now working side by side. Barriers of biology and culture were being overcome by shared purpose. Later, Lee stood at a viewing port, looking out at the stars. Council leader Krell approached, crystal form glowing softly. Diplomat Lee, Krell said. A moment of your time. Of course, Lee replied. How can I help? Krell's voice was low. I must confess something. When you first proposed fighting the Dominion, I thought you were mad. Humans seemed so primitive to me. Lee smiled slightly. Many species think that about us. I was wrong, Krell admitted. I've watched your people these past days. You work without rest. You solve problems others thought impossible. You bring different species together in ways I never imagined. We're just doing what needs to be done, Lee said simply. Perhaps, Krell said. But I believe now that the Union needed humans more than we realized. Your history, which we once viewed as shameful, has prepared you for this moment. Lee looked out at the stars again. A wise human once said that the ultimate measure of a species is not where they stand in moments of comfort, but where they stand in times of challenge. Krell's crystal form pulsed with light. We face our greatest challenge now, and Earth stands with us. As Krell left, Lee received a message from General Bake. The response to the Dominion had been prepared. Instead of surrender terms, they would send a single message. The Galactic Union declines your offer. We choose freedom. The message would be followed immediately by Operation Lighthouse's first phase, a strike against Dominion communication systems. War was coming. Lee knew the cost would be high. Many would not survive the conflict ahead. But for the first time in his life, he understood why ancient humans had sometimes greeted each other with the phrase, "good hunting." The hunt for freedom was about to begin.